Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the April edition of our 2021 Smart Series. My name is Emily Wenzel, and I am the Director of Events and Programs for the Iowa City Area Business Partnership. This afternoon, we're joined by Adam Engel from Running Robots, who will present 7 tips to ride the digital revolution. We will be recording this session, and we'll have it posted on our YouTube page shortly after we finish in case you need to leave early. Since we are in a meeting format instead of a webinar, if you do not want to appear in the recording, you'll need to keep your camera off. Before we get to the presentation, there are a couple people that I would like to thank. First, I'd like to thank our lead sponsor, MediaCom Business, for their support of this program, along with our supporting sponsors, BRL Human Resources Consulting, the City of Coralville, the City of Iowa City, and Terry Lockridge and Dunn. I have a quick message to share from our sponsor, MediaCom.
What's the measure of success for my business? It's the ability to keep serving my customers, keep evolving, keep succeeding under any circumstances. It's also having the right technology to restructure, reimagine, or reboot my business without slowing down. Fast, secure business Wi-Fi internet from MediaCom Business helps me achieve this, no matter what the future brings to my doors. MediaCom Business makes it easy for small business to do big things.
Alrighty, thank you, MediaCom. If you want to get in touch with them about their business internet, Terry Carpenter is their representative for our area, and that contact information is up on the screen right now. Alrighty. A few quick notes about Zoom that I hid. We are in meeting format instead of webinar, so there is not a little Q&A box down at the bottom. If you have a question, you can either hold on to it until the end and ask it out loud, or you can put it in the chat and I'll answer it. Maybe Adam will answer it. He's got some people from his team as well. We will definitely get you an answer. Alrighty, now that I'm done with all of my boring stuff, I will turn it over to Adam.
Awesome. Thank you, Emily. I appreciate the intro there. So real quick, I'm just going to share my screen. And what I'm going to do is just share a full browser window. So it's not going to be a full-on presentation, but we're going to kind of jump around here. So give me a thumbs up if you guys can see my screen, if that's okay. Okay. So first and foremost, I don't want to make this any more formal than it needs to be. There's a small number of people here. We all have, probably different questions and different things that they have questions about. And the format here, I'd love to really allow you to stop me at any point throughout this and ask additional questions. So without further ado, we're going to kind of jump into the 7 tips to ride the digital revolution. So what we're going to do today is really go through a couple different things. So the intro, and then 7 tips to ride the digital revolution. The next thing we're going to go over is some tools and toys. So if anybody knows me, I'm a geek, and I do like to geek out a little bit around the digital marketing side of things. So I'm going to give you some tools as well that we can use to really elevate or fix maybe some of the things that we're going to point out today. Last but not least, we'll get into some results-based findings if there's time. What I'd like to do is just kind of show you some of the things that we've done in the past and maybe some of the results that we've seen from the digital marketing efforts that we've done, and just really what's possible as far as a digital marketing campaign is concerned. And then if there is time again after that, we'll go into some question and answers. So without further ado here, I really wanted to explain why Running Robots and what's with the name, right? And so, one, yes, it's memorable, but what does it actually mean? And I feel like we separate ourselves as being an honest digital marketing agency. And what we do is we really try and separate ourselves from the payment component when recommending solutions to our clientele. And so any interaction that you have with our business should be unbiased, and really we're not necessarily pushing any software or any hardware. Our goal is to be a consultant or an assistant to you to help you find the right digital marketing needs. And so what does robots have to do with that, and why are they running? You plus your data plus artificial intelligence, in my mind, equals robots, right? So what that means is your data and your information around your business and how you run it, plus artificial intelligence to actually use some of those pieces of data and make artificial or educated decisions using artificial intelligence, I would consider that a robot. And so we help you use those robots to run your business. And so that's in turn where the name comes from for running robots. So what we'll do next is really kind of look at, okay, what's happened over the past year? What are we dealing with, and how does your business communicate with customers, and how has COVID really affected that? So I hate reading off a slide, but I'm going to do it here just because I feel like the things that we found word for word are very important or very crucial to how a business manages their infrastructure or their digital presence. So customers' browsing and purchasing habits have changed. I just mentioned that. So our goal today is to help small to medium-sized business owners like yourselves or marketing managers within a larger business identify ways to increase visibility and sales online in a post-COVID world. So what we found is that digital continues to disrupt the retail industry. E-commerce emerges as the default platform or default option for many customers. Future growth to be driven by e-commerce and by digital marketing. And then digital marketing has changed the rules of the game for those in retail, wholesale, and the service sectors. And then the last but not least, technology is here to stay. It's not another .com bubble. So we'll kind of get into each one of these things, but these findings are things that I feel like resonate through the entire presentation. And I think that everybody can agree that there have been things that have changed, and I'm going to explain why we believe these findings are true. So the last option here, the last line item where it says technology is here to stay, that is really one of the biggest catching points for small business owners or people running a marketing firm. There's a lot of technology that's out there. So when we start to look at digital marketing solutions, and this is a little dated, this is the MarTech 5000, but what this is basically the logos of a lot of different, or the majority of the digital marketing offerings that are within the space. And so what we're looking at here is just an overwhelming amount of information. And for a business owner or a marketing individual to really understand what each one of these solutions offers is, I think, of a bit of a system overload. So what we're going to do is really dive into, okay, what solutions are there, or what options are we looking to approach, and how do we come into this technology and make better decisions about what's available. So what we're going to do now is really start to go look at, okay, what are the tips or what are the things that you're going to tell me that's going to help you understand exactly how a digital marketing campaign can really affect your business. So the first problem that we see that when we interact with customers is old or no content. We've got Miranda and Peter here, part of my team, and I can almost guarantee you that Miranda and Peter are, the reason that this is number one. Those guys know how much it hurts to get content out of customers, right? And when we do, they think it's there. The customer thinks, okay, I've got the content, and now I don't have to touch it for 6 years. Well, that's really one of the biggest misconceptions that we have is, if you've got old, dated, or outdated content, we need to really rethink how that's working. And so we see people that are paying for industry experts. I use air quotes for experts because, yeah. And then posting to just post and editing to edit. Those are just things that people are told to do by their SEO expert to say, hey, you got to edit these every so often, and they're going in and changing like a couple words, but not really changing the gist of the sentence. And then the last but not least here, the write drunk and edit sober. So what I mean by that is, and I'm not encouraging you to drink, I'm saying that if you're writing content, think of everything, put everything that you can think of in your head, and just put it down on paper, get it out of your head and onto paper. And then once you really think, okay, I can't think of any more ideas around this topic or anything else to say, that's when you go back and start editing and maybe rearranging or moving things around. And so by doing that, you're really going to start to develop certain aspects of content and developing content on a consistent basis. So one of the best things that we've found for digital marketers is to create a content calendar. And I know I'm probably preaching to the choir for some of you, but A content calendar is really very effective if it's stuck to. A lot of people will create one. A lot of people say, hey, I'm going to do this. And then nobody wants to do it. I always use the analogy that blogs are like puppies. Everybody wants one when they're in the shop store window and it's really, cute and cuddly. But when they poop on your floor, nobody wants to clean it up. So, when that relates back to a blog, because everybody wants a blog at the beginning, but no one wants to produce the content and write and put in the hard work to actually make the blog successful. And that's why we see a lot of blogs or personal writing fail. Next, keyword stuffing. So we've all seen this in the past. We all think of this when we hear the words search engine optimization potentially. And what I mean by keyword stuffing, it's not, there are things that you used to do in the past where you'd keyword stuffing is when you take all of your keywords and put them in white text, and then the background is white. And so Google can see those words are there, but the customers can't. And that's keyword stuffing. And you're actually negatively penalized for doing those sorts of interactions. But keyword stuffing can also mean something similar to what I've got up on the screen here. And so I'm not going to read each one of these, but if you look through at how the paragraph is structured, which one do you feel like is easier to digest? The left, which has a bunch of basically, benches, park benches, commercial park benches. So it just completely, reiterates the same thing over and over again. And it's just not sexy. It's not easy to digest. Whereas the one on the right really goes into the high quality commercial park business, commercial park benches with a 20-year guarantee. That helps me understand, okay, what am I looking at? What am I understanding, or what are they trying to tell me? And then we've got bullet points and bolded sections. Those are easy ways to identify what the writer is trying to tell the end user. So the solution here is to write for your customers, write for people, write for humans, don't write for bots. And so what we're looking to do is, there's a lot of metrics and formulas and keyword, the keyword density options down here. We can get into those things, and that does play in. But if you're just starting out and you're just wondering, okay, how do I make sure that my copy is working for my customers? Just write to them. Don't write to Google. Write to your customers. Next, we're going to look at paid link building. So we get this quite often, and we have people come to us and say, "Hey, I'd like to have." And when we're working on search engine optimization with customers, they'll come to us and say, I'd like to have a bunch of different backlinks come to my website, or I want to generate a large amount of traffic and create a lot of buzz. And so they go out to, how to find backlinks, and then they find these ads or people that are actually looking to, sell access to a directory. So, generic directories for, listing your business, or a private link network, or, comment links. Anybody that's looking to sell you links is potentially a negative. It's potentially a negative option for your business online. There are ways that Google has really identified areas where people are just backlink building. They're literally just going through and trying to increase the number of links that are coming to your website for that reason and that reason alone, and not to actually provide value to end users. And I kind of throw this in here because I just find it so interesting that, a lot of people don't really actually pay attention to what is clickbait and what their emotions are actually being pulled into something that somebody has written on the title. And maybe when they get into the article, it's completely different, or it's not mentioning the things that they said that were going to be mentioned in the title of the article. And that's a great way to get somebody to bounce, or to get somebody to just click. But if it's off topic and it's not actually relevant to the customer, what good are you doing, really? So what we recommend from a link building strategy, or from a link building practice, is start working on people within your industry or start connecting with people within your industry and try and figure out how you can work together, how those partnerships that you had in maybe the physical world can be represented in the digital world, and how your businesses work together and how those links between your websites can actually boost each other's businesses. An example of this here is really looking at what we did for Washington, Iowa. And we really took 5 separate websites, one for the city, one for the chamber, one for the economic development, one for the downtown district. And we really put all of those websites within one with a .gov domain. And by doing that, we're actually allowing business owners to create lists on, within their chamber profile to actually have a .gov backlink, right? And so we're not actually soliciting the backlink from a .gov, but by doing that, they can actually put a profile up, pay their chamber membership, and then they get a link from a .gov website, and it's a win-win scenario for the business owner and for the chamber itself. And I know I'm probably promoting a little bit of the competition for the Iowa City area, so sorry, Emily. But next, we're going to move on to mobile and speed here. And so what we're going to look at here is really, maybe speed was an afterthought when building the website. And so we all have smartphones, and these phones are actually taking much better pictures than what they used to. And each picture that's taken is a very large file size. And so if you were to try and download that image, as it comes off of your phone, the speed in which that image downloads dictates how long people will stay when you post that image to your website. So we want to look at optimizing the website for speed and how fast it comes up, how fast the scrolling options work within the actual page, how fast your search results come up. So when someone's typing on your website and looking for a keyword, are they able to see the results before they hit enter? And if they hit enter, how long does it take for the website to go out and find all of your options? So by reducing the load time, we increase the conversion rate. So if you look at the chart here, for something that takes 2.4 seconds to load, there's a 1.9% conversion rate. If we look at just a little bit faster, and if we're talking 3 seconds, like that doesn't seem like a lot of time, but just by going from 2.4 to 3.3, we're actually dropping and seeing a significant drop in conversion rate just at that first level. So when you're looking at your site, when you're looking at your optimizations, look at your page speed, understand what it's doing, and talk to a professional on how to increase that, and maybe develop some practices in-house that would help you understand, okay, how do I upload this image from my phone or from something that I've been working on into my site here. Why is mobile design and website speed matter today? Well, if we're looking at how something looks professionally as far as a mobile design, the differences between what's developed for mobile and what's not is pretty apparent in these images. So I don't touch on this too much because we're in 2021. Everybody's got a smartphone. You should be designing your digital presence around mobile displays and having it be responsive depending on what size of device the person's viewing it from. Before I get into the next one, does anybody have any questions around how the first 4 steps or first 4 tips could work within their business? No? Okay, cool. So what we're going to cover next is really the don't make me think aspect of your business. So there's a couple of you, and I'm going to probably call you out here and bring up some of your websites. So I apologize if you don't want everyone to see your website. But the idea here is when we're going to a customer site, and I'll actually go to the next slide here. So what is it you would like the customers to do? And so on some of your sites here, within and I actually kind of scoped out who was going to be in here and started to pull up your different sites within the tabs across here. But within the first 3 seconds of viewing the homepage, do customers know what you offer? Do they know what what you want them to do next. So it's a simple call to action. And do you know what to do next if they don't like option one? So if I look at the Home Builders Association here, one of the things that I understand right away, I understand, okay, it's a Home Builders Association. I know that there are individuals within this association that want to help with home building, right? But where's the call to action? Where is the thing that really says, do you want me to contact you? Do you want me to sign up to be an associate member? Do you want me to attend an event? We have calendars of events and we've got news over here, but there's not really an easy way to say, okay, here's what I want to do next. Same with the velvet coat here. Where is the call to action? I can see some feet and some jewelry here, but I really don't know, okay, am I buying that? Or am I just looking to sell it here? And let me actually go back. And I won't go through each one of these, but here's a good call to action. I want to book now. Hills Bank, 90% of your customers going to the site are probably looking to log in. So that's a great call to action here. United Way, again, it has a call to action, but it's kind of hard to see. It's super small and we need to work on some mobile stuff here. But and I won't pick on everybody, but I'm just kind of going down through. And actually, here's a great example of too many calls to action. Which one of these do I click on? Which one's right for me? They're making me think about what options I have. And if I do have to think, it should be necessarily for navigating to my next option, right? So that I think we can all kind of see how those things play out. Is your website able to answer all the questions customers ask when they call? So if customers call and ask the same question over and over and over again, what is that? What aren't they seeing on your site that could potentially help them in their journey of working with you? So we want to make sure that those options or those things that you're repeating over and over and over again to your customers are things that are on your website and easily found. Stock videos and boilerplate content do not create trust. So when I go to a website, if I can tell, and I think we've got a couple people here, and I can't remember. So we've got some stock photography here. And so when I see stock photography or clip art, you're basically saying that you're pulling that solution off the internet. And when someone can tell that, that trust immediately goes away. Well, it doesn't necessarily go all away, but it's degraded. And so your ability to portray trust allows them to continue to think about the thing that they were trying, or the problem that they were trying to solve, instead of the question, can I trust this person? Or can I trust this company to do this thing? And that's really just what we've found from a stock photography aspect as far as how that trust is related. And we just went over the example, so I kind of pointed this out with you all there. The solution to don't make me think is really looking at the calls to actions and the copy. We want to look at the navigation and the personas. So on some of these different sites here, when we're looking at the different options that we have, and let me actually make it smaller here. There we go. We look at the navigation, and Stutzman is one of the ones that I felt like was a great example of navigation, because when we go into divisions and we actually go into a division, our navigation changes and our navigation goes away. And it creates this thought of, okay, where do I go, or how do I go back? And it took me a minute to realize, okay, the actual default navigation was back over here. So that's a prime example of how just making someone think or changing certain aspects of a site might actually make somebody think about, okay, how do I do this, or how do I navigate this, instead of the initial call to action. And so how we do that and how we simplify those things are using F and Z patterns within the website design. So we're basically looking at how the eyes of the customer actually interact with the website. And so for a landing page, we're looking at the Z style of action. And that's why a lot of the web pages or landing pages that you see follow the same format, is the fact that that's proven as far as the eye tracking abilities or eye technology of understanding where people are looking at on the screen and visually representing what they're looking for. Yeah, I'll move on. Looking at the next thing here, and this is a little bit geeky, so I might lose some of you on this, but I feel like it's an important aspect of your site and of your digital marketing presence, is your URL structure. And I know this sounds a little bit funny and a little bit geeky, but what it's actually doing, flat URLs give Google little insight into your website structure. And so what I mean by flat URLs is really, and I'll explain it on the next page here, and I might bounce back and forth, but what we're looking at is really how many different levels of your website are there, and how do you divide those out? And so let's say your business serves, let's say, two major industries, right? Or two different people. And so when a customer comes to your site, they've got, are you this person or are you this person? Your website hierarchy from a URL standpoint should be divided in that way, so that you're able to say, okay, someone's coming in, are you this person? You're going to go down this hierarchy and go down this path of information that's relevant to you. Whereas, okay, if you're this person, you're going to go down this other path, and then that's more relevant to you. And so that tells Google, okay, you've divided your site in this way so that you can understand how, or that it shows that you understand how your customers are interacting with you. Last thing I want to touch on with domains and URL structure is the purchasing of multiple domains. And we get this a lot. And what this means is that when you're on GoDaddy buying a domain and they say you can buy 50 other domains for $1.99 each, and you might want to scoop those up so that somebody doesn't take them and then have them all point back to your site. What that's doing is basically telling Google that you're duplicating your content. So if you have coolbenches.net and bestbenchesevermade.us and you point them back to the same site, Google recognizes that. They're literally saying, okay, they're trying to not scam, but basically push customers to their site by just using different domain names. And in reality, that doesn't really hurt you, but it doesn't help you either. And it's just a waste of money and time. So pick the domains that really matter to your business and that actually have your brand name and are easy for customers to remember. But a domain name is just that. It's just a name, and you really don't need to have 50 of them all pointing back to the same area. We touched on the cheat sheet for the URL anatomy. The last tip that we're going to give here is really expecting overnight results. So when a customer comes to us and says, hey, we want to do search engine optimization, and we've got a sale coming up on May 1st, we want to do SEO, and we want to drive a bunch of traffic to our website. Well, typical search engine optimization results take time. And the reason that they take time is because that Google wants to make sure that when you're answering that question, that there's an accountability, or there's a certain authority that you would have for that. And so when you make a change and when you make updates and when you try and optimize your website, Google's going to say, okay, we're going to send a couple more people that way. We're going to see what they do. And they're monitoring and tracking and understanding how long that customer's staying on your site, where they're going, what they're doing. And after that's repeated, and after that is done over a certain amount of time, Google's going to say, oh, okay, well, if we send someone to this site, their question's answered, they stop looking for it, and they move on to the next thing, or they purchase something. And so when they recognize that at about the 3 to 4 month period, we're going to start to see some activity. And whether that's if that's good, then it'll continue to go. If the changes that we made are not good, then we'll see some activity the other way. So it's really SEO and optimizing your site does take time. It does take effort. It does take the continual grind. But when you do that, you don't really necessarily have to continue to put the same funds that you would using a pay-per-click method. So just to recap here with the 7 tools or 7 tips, we're looking at how to fix old content, looking at keyword stuffing, paid link building, mobile and speed issues. We don't want to make customers think, looking at flat structure or domain hoarding. And then we've also looked at overnight results. Any questions on those tips that we've covered so far? No? Okay. What happens after this meeting? What happens after our discussion here today? How do you remember everything that I've said here? How do we kind of digest what's going on? There's a lot of technical details and a lot of geek pieces that I've mentioned in there, but what we're looking at here is really answer the questions for your customers. So if you close your eyes and think about what your customers want, and you provide and you continue to give value. So I always say, give value, give value, give value, and then ask for their business. And a lot of people will do that in reverse. A lot of people will try and do that in reverse. They'll basically ask for the business up front and, basically say, hey, buy my thing. Hey, buy my thing. Hey, buy my thing. And when you don't give the value up front, that trust is not created. That information that you had that helped that customer wasn't given up front, and then that trust wasn't there. So it's really going through and building that trust over an extended amount of time. Okay, so now we're going to get into the tools and toys. So this is a little bit of the geeky section here, but we're going to kind of dive into some ways or some options that you have to really dive into how these concepts can be portrayed in your actual sites and in your actual digital marketing plan. So the first one here is SEMrush. And I'm sure some of you in the room, I've kind of done a little bit of diving into your backgrounds a little bit. You have some marketing professionals in here. So you're probably familiar with SEMrush. It's a little bit expensive, but what I would recommend for somebody that is not working with let's say their budget does not allow them to work with a digital marketing agency that may have access to SEMrush, what I would say is take a trial, take their 14-day free trial, type in your business domain, start to understand how the tool works. But what it does is it goes out and really finds your competition, and it measures your competition over time in comparison to you. And that value, as far as how the competition is molding and changing, will give you an insight to how your digital marketing options are playing out. I'm interested to see if anybody in here has actually been to the Answer the Public site. So if you have, drop me a line and let me know, or put something in the chat. But when you go to the Answer the Public, and I'll just do it. Answer the Public site, it does seem a little overwhelming. It is a little creepy or a little weird, and they have different dudes that kind of show up on the homepage over time. So this is actually a little toned down from the last guy they had there, but they just stare at you really awkwardly. But if I do digital marketing here and search, the results that we get back are pretty amazing, and how we actually digest, who is searching for these things, when they were searching, what is digital marketing. So this is a really valuable tool to help you understand what search terms are actually happening and who's searching for what. So when I just typed in digital marketing, which digital marketing courses are the best in India? And so these are terms or searches that were actually placed through Google. And when you click on them, it'll actually bring you up and show you those results. So it kind of gives you a way of expanding your search. And I would, suggest typing in your industry or your product or options there to really see how people are perceiving you. And I'm going to kind of go through these relatively quick. Emily, we're going to 45, right? 2:45. Okay, good. Moz, I pulled up a little bit of their marketing materials here in in the presentation, but Moz is one of those companies that allows you to for very low funds allow your digital listings or your digital presence to be modified by Moz. I don't really find a whole lot of value in paying for their service, but their content that they use to get you into their service is absolutely amazing. So if you're interested in any of the topics that I'm covering here today, the Moz does a very good job of covering each one of these things and really kind of dives into the specifics around what's there. Next, we're looking at Screaming Frog. Again, this is a little bit of a geeky tool. But what Screaming Frog does is it allows you to get an export of your existing site. And so I might pick on Hills Bank for a second here. And what I'm going to do is type in the word SITE colon, so site colon, right in front of their URL. And what that does is it provides me with an entire list of everything that's indexed by Google for that domain. So there are 447 different indexed pages on hillsbank.com. And when you want to know what those pages are and how Google is actually indexing those pages, we use something called Screaming Frog to kind of pull down that list and see what you have. So at the end of a Screaming Frog session, you'll basically get a giant spreadsheet of all of your pages, and then the URLs, the hierarchies, the meta tags, the descriptions. It doesn't go into the content as much, but it just tells you how to kind of fix maybe some of that flat URL structure that we mentioned earlier. You can also, if you don't want to pay for Screaming Frog, you can actually, pull the links from Google or from your sitemap. So you don't necessarily have to pay for Screaming Frog. And the free version of Screaming Frog is actually up to 500 different results. So for somebody like Hills Bank, you could actually use Screaming Frog to pull the results for free because you do have less than 500 pages listed on the site. So, last but not least, and the reason it's in red is because I feel like every business should be using this tool on their website to help them understand how their customers are interacting with their business. And what Hotjar does is it's basically heat mapping. It's very simple. I'm sure a lot of you in the room have used or seen heat mapping in the past. But what I feel like is done differently through Hotjar is the fact that they give you a lot of the options for free and limit the ability to or limit the cost to that. So what they'll do is they'll give you 100 recordings, and I'm actually not going to log into ours for sake of time here, but you can actually see on their slide here, on their marketing, you'll actually watch almost a YouTube style video of how people are interacting with your site. It's borderline creepy. We try and walk the borderline. We don't want to go full creep mode, but we want to kind of stay, borderline creepy of watching what people are doing on your website. If we want to go full creep mode, we can start talking about CRM and integrating Hotjar and how we know who's doing what on your site, but that's a different talk. So the ability for you to understand what's going on your site with Hotjar is very powerful. After we launch a site, I'll sit with Hotjar for a couple hours and just watch the user videos that are going in there to see, oh, well, okay, if a customer is going back and forth between a product multiple times, then we need to put in a compare feature to be able to help them make that decision between those two products. A very user-friendly tool that allows you to see those things real time. Any questions on the tools or toys that we've got within the presentation here? Okay. What we're going to look at next is the analytics and data. So how do we know whether the digital presence or the optimization of the site is, or the entire presence is actually working? So this example it's a little dated, but what I wanted to show here is really how the data was actually interpreted, right? And so what we're looking at is an analytics report here, and I would consider this a data puke. And a lot of people say, okay, well, this is Google Analytics, and you're in here, and there's charts and numbers, and I can see it's going up and down. This is a data puke in my mind. You're not able to determine what the business needs to do to increase traffic to the site based on what you're. So analytics, and that image is a little blurry, but analytics are actionable items. So we can read here and say, the recommendations are to do this, to do this, to do this, to do this. And once we, have those action items or those recommendations, that's when we can start making business decisions on the data. So I always use this slide. I love the saying, we never bring an opinion to a data fight, because data is always going to tell the truth. Men lie, women lie, numbers don't lie. So data is going to always be able to determine what the best option is for your business if given the appropriate question. So like what we're looking at here is basically our approach to a local business. So this couple of slides are for Lillis Insurance out of Williamsburg, Iowa. I lived in Williamsburg at the time, so I'm in Iowa City now. I'm an Iowa Cityan. I'm good. But what we're looking at here is really simple things that we did for Lillis Insurance, and we went through and did image descriptions, some content structure, some page focus. We verified their business on Google My Business, and we did some interpage linking. That's it. We followed the rules. There was no special sauce. We just looked at the data and kept iterating through their site. And 6 months after the SEO process, we have results that look like this. So if you can see the word Lillis highlighted, it shows up 22 times on the homepage or on the first page of Google search results if we type in, insurance agency Williamsburg, Iowa. And so by doing those very simple things and allowing ourselves to be the best offering in Google's eyes, we're rewarded with that. And we see the results. Lillis Insurance called us shortly after we went through this, and they were going through a remodel. They called us and said, hey, can you guys turn off whatever it is you turned on, because we can't handle this much business with the remodel that we've got going on. So it's kind of like, well, you don't really want to turn it off, but we can set some expectations in the site that quotes are going to take a little longer. Again, we're looking at the results here again. So it's the, the blue line is Lillis Insurance. And this is actually a direct copy and paste out of SEMrush. So if you were wondering, okay, what does SEMrush look like, and how does that relate to my business, or how do I use it? This is the tool that we use to see those trends and how you're comparing to your competition through a search engine optimization project. So yeah, you can really see the blue line kind of taking hold here. And I guess the next section here, the next part of this, and we've only got 1 minute left, but I do want to give you an opportunity to have a review by Running Robots. So if you would like us to take a look at your digital presence and provide a report, please let Emily or myself know. My contact information will be on the screen, but please just send me an email and say, hey, I'd like an assessment, and we'll provide you with a step-by-step assessment that can really help understand maybe where you're sitting from a digital marketing perspective. With that, do you have any questions or comments regarding the presentation today?